Welcome back to Conquest SMP, the server you can make a country or do some various other interesting things. Today, we're gonna build a big road all the way from down there to up there, as well as a few other roads in order to have some infrastructure. That way we can start building cool buildings. We're also going to build one building, not more than that, but just one. It's gonna go right about here, and it is going to be a house for me. You see, on Conquest 1, which was not just like, it was just a couple months ago, I lived in my basement, which was really awful. I lived there for 3 years. This is about what it looked like, actually. This little room, which is, I dug it on the first day. I've just got a couple chests, like, put into the wall here. That's exactly what it looked like on Conquest 1 for 3 years. And I built tons of structures, giant, look at this thing. I built that. Living in this sort of thing, living in this terrible place. It was ugly, it was inefficient, so today we're going to build a big house that I will be able to live in for the rest of this server and never build another one. And the inside is going to be a bed, a crafting table, and 200 double chests of storage, because that is what I value in a house. I don't care how it looks. The outside better look cool, but the inside, I don't care. I'm just gonna put a bunch of chests in there, it's gonna be efficient, and we're gonna do that. It's gonna be great. But first, we need to build some infrastructure. That is the first priority today. The first order of business, actually, will be cleaning up this sheep pen and all these farms. I kid you not, these are just so ugly, and they're so annoying. They need to move somewhere. I don't know where I'm gonna move them, but I'm gonna move them, and I'm gonna record it, and you guys are gonna be like, wow, that's crazy. And this whole place is gonna look so different. So, let's do that right now. No sheep were harmed in the making of this video. Anyway, it's safe to say that I will have a fair supply of mutton for the next couple months. This area that once housed the sheep is now looking a lot different. As you can see, I took care of the sheep. I also moved the horses down there where they're kind of accessible. And I got rid of the big tree. I actually didn't get rid of it. I moved it over there because it's historic, apparently. I would question that, but anyway, I moved it over there. That way, I wouldn't have to deal with anyone being like, nimma, historic tree, nimma. It was in the way. It was in the way of the view of my building here. That's not acceptable. So yeah, you can see the sheep over here are all crowded in their pen on the other side of the river, where we will never have to worry about them until we try to build something there, and then we'll have to move them again. But for now, they're just occupying that hill, and they look a little weird, but I think it looks better than this mess. So now that we have gotten that out of the way, we need to build the roads right now. So, we have built some roads. When I say roads, I mean 2 roads. We didn't bother building any roads over on this side of the river, or any roads leading up there, or all around the place. So really, this is not much, but it's a little bit. It is a start to the infrastructure of this town. Now, immediately you can see there are 2 roads that split off from this one point. One of them goes in a perfectly straight line up to the church, which I think that is kind of a cool view, how it goes over the hill, and you can see the church looks a little sunken into the ground. I think that's a nice view right there. But we also have one that follows the river here, as you can see. Now, the plan for this area is to, in the future, have this riverside boardwalk be filled with like 1600s and 1700s Danish-looking buildings. You've probably never been to Norway, but the oldest towns there, it's kind of hard to describe. I'll put an image of it on screen. There, you see that? It's gonna go all around here, but that is only going to be once we reach that era in time. Right now it's still early medieval, so basically we're gonna leave this spot mostly empty, put a few things here, but nothing too big since it's not gonna be there forever. Meanwhile, up here is going to be our main city center. There might be a little plaza over here. Not sure though, because I haven't built it yet. And I also built this little stone bridge here. Just look at that shape, look at the form. It took me a good 10 minutes to build this thing, and I think it's pretty neat, much better than that clunky wooden one we had in the past. So, now that we have the infrastructure for the town and we've cleared out all the land, it's time to build a house. And it's gonna be a great house. We're gonna build a house. It's gonna be a great, big, beautiful house, and it's gonna go right here, right about where this popsicle stand is. Now, I could just keep talking about it and talking about it and talking about it, but really, you just need to see the house for yourself, and then I can talk about it and yap your face off. So, let's start building this house right now. It has been a very long time since I have been on this server because it was down for a while, and then I managed to get it to turn on, but then there was this weird bug where neither me nor Jake could log on because we had like a packet exception error thing. I didn't really know what that was, and so it prevented me from getting on the server for a very long time. And then I eventually fixed that, but the server was still broken and it just wasn't working. Like, it would start stopping and then it would never stop, and we'd have to force stop it every single time. So it just caused a lot of problems. And so I tried to get Jake to fix it, and then I tried to get my dad to fix it, who's the one who pays for the server. It's not me, because I'm too broke. And then I tried to get my uncle, who's a tech support manager for a bank, and he couldn't even fix it. So the server is still broken, but I can finally log on now, and that means that I have been playing a little bit. Now, usually I wouldn't show this part because it's extremely boring. Some people, like some YouTubers, will have time lapses of them gathering materials, but what gathering materials is for me is going into this chest, finding what I need, putting it in here, going here, crafting it, and I just go back and forth between these couple chests, and sometimes I'll go off on a crazy adventure 30,000 blocks that way to find a single block of acacia, because there's none in this area, but most times it's just back and forth, and it's exceptionally boring. But I wanted to show you guys this, because this is ridiculous. The big difference between the stuff that I do on Stoneworks, since I just made that Stoneworks video, and the stuff that I do here, is that on Stoneworks I never use a schematic, because it's really annoying. Take a look at this, right? Look at all that. That is a lot, but, you know, that's just that's sort of normal. Like that, you know, that looks like about how much stuff you need for a house. Look at all this. Look at every single one of these. Like, this is ridiculous. One chiseled bookshelf, one crafting table, one flowering azalea leaf, one loom, one oak pressure plate, 2 copper trapdoors, and some of these things like the mangrove, the cherry, the acacia, the crimson, and then over here there's more, the warped. I had to go thousands and thousands of blocks to get those, and it took me so long. I just wanted to complain about this, because this is absolutely ridiculous. Anyway, I should probably stop talking about the house and actually build it now, because I have all the stuff, so let's do that right now. Behold, my house. Here is my house that I built in Minecraft. I think it's pretty cool. In fact, I think this might just be my favorite house that I have ever made. So this house is very interesting. It's not a normal house, as you can see. It has this big walkway that extends out from the base, and it gives it a very interesting shape. That is the most noticeable oddity. Why is that? Well, I think it looks cool. That's why. There's no point or purpose to it, really. It just sort of looks cool. I based this house off of this drawing that I found on Pinterest. Now, that drawing is of a much smaller building, and I think is based off of these little storage sheds that they use for grain that are lifted off the ground to protect them from rot. But this is way scaled up. I think I might have been talking about this earlier. Vikings didn't live in houses. They lived in halls like those ones, and they'd have a whole village of people living in one building. And there would just be a village with a single building, and that's it. And all the other things would be like little tents or huts that they would build so that they could do their anvil smelting and weaving and such. So they wouldn't really have any kind of architecture, and this stuff isn't even Viking. Like, these things do exist, but they're much smaller, they're not houses, and they're not Viking. But they are Norwegian, and so I said, you know what, that's good enough for me, and so I turned it into a house. There's a little bit of texturing, quite similar to in that building over there, but not much. It's just enough to make it look more realistic, I suppose. Also, you will notice that, I mean, it's kind of hard to see it because I've just gone down the hill, but on top of this, the roof is made of grass. Up there, look at that, see, wow. The reason that would be is because the Vikings lived in Norway, and Norway is cold, so you want to keep as much heat in as possible, and they would do that by covering the roof in dirt. Also, I was going with this sort of lore that there's a lot of snow up here, but having such a shallow pitched roof then wouldn't make any sense because it would just break every single year when it snows. So that's not realistic either. But again, I'm kind of sacrificing a little bit of realism here because we're trying to do Vikings and they don't have any cool buildings at all. So I have to just make stuff up. So that's about all there is to see on the outside. I mean, you can just take a look at it from another angle. It kind of is pretty big. The surface area isn't so big, but just because it gets 3 blocks wider, you can see 1, 2, 3, it does appear to be pretty large. So, if we go in through here, you'll see that it is a very practical, simple interior. I've got a carpet, some utilities, a similarly unrealistic furnace because they would not have had these big chimneys, fireplaces, and a giant manual storage system. Now this might make some redstoners about die because it's not automatic, but this is just how I operate. Like, I don't want an automatic storage system. I want a big wall of chests with a bunch of signs where I can just flip through and just get what I want. Okay, that's a problem. That happens a lot, but you just have to avoid it. And this is where I keep all my stuff. I have moved everything in here. Look, everything has arrived. I have moved all of my stuff out from Covenant Cave and put it all in here. Noodle, however, who lives up there and he built that house on like day 3, still hasn't moved all his stuff from inside Covenant Cave. It's been months, Noodle. Get with the times. Anyway, yes, so this is my storage system. Real basic, but it works for me, and I'm not gonna change it until next server. Now, to the right of that is this little hallway with some nice natural lighting. This is not something you see very often. Most people put like a lantern there, but I was like, no, natural lighting is important. It's good, and it looks super cool. Like this is just cool. And bonus, it has auto smelters that I can use when I need to. It also comes with this beautiful view of the surrounding terrain. Now, the real interesting stuff actually is up here. This is my room. This is where I live. We've got a bed, a nice large bed, and a nice large chair with a tiny ottoman with some little strings coming off. None of this is remotely Viking, so just like completely throw out the whole Viking thing. This is my Victorian modern interior. We've got a second fireplace here with some charred wood because it's not safe to put a fire on top of wood, but I did it anyway because it looks better. We've got some carpet, some flowers, some shields up there, which I guess are kind of a little Viking. We've got some books, so I can do some reading, and space to store written books. We've got the flag of Fieloy and the flag of Borg there, because I am a Borg patriot. We've got a little seating area where you could eat dinner if you ate dinner in Minecraft, but that's not really a thing. And this little small kitchen, which, I mean, I don't really know what would go on here because it's so small, but we also do actually have a beer keg, because everyone needs a beer keg in their lives. And that is just about all. It is one single room because I am one single person and really don't need any more than that. If you go through this door, you can walk around the balcony and see out across the whole village into the farms over there. And you can just walk all about, and it's, I mean, there's not much to see here, but it's a kind of cool little area. And that is just about everything to do with this house. It's very unique, perhaps the most unique and the most practical house ever built in Minecraft. I have just been appreciating it. It works so well, it does everything it needs to, and it does it with style. Small side note, I didn't take down that books sign that I had, because when I was designing this, I was like designing it for the landscape. I had a little clone of this in a single player world, and I just never got around to taking it down until I finished the whole thing. So it's just still there. And we sort of made an agreement that we wouldn't leave random crap around so that people would say, oh no, that barrel, that's historic, you can't break that and put a road there. But this is one of the like 2 things here that we've just like, okay, I guess we can keep that. Now that I've shown off my cool new mansion, there's only one thing left to do, which I forgot to do forever ago when I actually intended to do it. And that is to read some lore. So the book I'm going to be reading today is called The Prose Edda, which is based on a real book called The Prose Edda, which is a book of Icelandic Norse mythology. It's a very wild and crazy book that I've only read part of, but I basically made my own version in Minecraft, which is not nearly as crazy, but I think is interesting and is worth reading to you guys today. So, let's read some book. The Prose Edda by Ethelred Godothin. That's me, by the way. Collection of stories from the very beginning to the very end. Preface. This is the Prose Edda. It is a collection of tales recounting the people of Godothin's history. Those of you who remember the ancient times will notice that no detail has been left out, although much has been distorted over time. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The peoples of the earth built great cities and vast walls. They had many mead halls and bathhouses, and all else was in plenty. However, they got so greedy that they attempted to tame the sun for their own uses. The sun was too great for them to handle, so it fell down to the earth with tremendous thunder. Its heat killed all of the inhabitants of the earth, leaving nothing left of those old peoples. However, God did not let his people die out completely, so he preserved them through a man named Vig. Vig and his family re-inhabited the earth, although without the same splendor as before. Now this was the era of kings and wizards. There were once many kings, such as King Skrum and King Vaisa. King Kuiper was the ruler of Eftha, the land to the east. That country was once home to 3 clans of orcs. They had settled the land not long after the sun had crashed into the earth, and they made sure that no man would retake it. They built large walls and earthworks to stop anyone from entering their cities. For most, this would seem a terrifying land, but for King Kuiper, it was an opportunity. Let us bring the descendants of Vig to this foreign country which has good soil and many rivers, he said. So King Kuiper and his followers attacked the orc clans, but were totally defeated. Now let us disguise ourselves as orcs and sneak in during the festival. If God is with us, then we will surely have victory over them." So Kuiper and his soldiers disguised themselves as orcs and snuck in during the most important orc festival without being noticed. Kuiper and his men then leapt up and killed all of the orcs and burned down their greatest city. The rest of the orcs were easily defeated in battle, and that is why the eastern country is home to men instead of orcs. To the west, there was a king named Dagfinn, who conquered so much land that his kingdom came to be known simply as the Empire. Much further west, there was a minor clan of wizard called the Gwyddno. Among them was Halfdan, a young and powerful wizard. That wizard clan was fighting the heinously evil Dodmen. God approached Halfdan and told him to charge through the chaos of the battle and kill the enemy king, to which Halfdan replied, "Yes, Lord, I will go." The time came when the wizards and the Dodmen were fighting on the battlefield. Halfdan knew he had to slay the opposing king, but the enemy chariots frightened him. So much was his fear that he dropped his staff and ran away. As Halfdan sat under a spruce tree, God asked him, "Why have you disobeyed me?" "I was scared of the enemy chariots, Lord," said Halfdan. "Listen to me. If you go back to the battle and do just as I have asked, I will give you a great empire that shall last 1,000 years, said God. So Halfdan went back to the battle, and almost joined the fray. However, his legs gave out yet again, and he ran as far away as he could. God again came down to him and said, "Why have you disobeyed me?" And yet again Halfdan responded, "I was scared of the enemy chariots." "I have given you my blessing, and yet you have defied me. I shall give the Dodmen victory over your people, and I shall curse you to wander the earth forevermore." So the Dodmen killed all of Halfdan's family, and burned down all of their cities. The only one of those wizards to survive was Halfdan, who now lived in constant torment. Halfdan had nothing to do but practice his magic. He spent all of his long years perfecting his skill, to the point that he became the most powerful wizard in history. He was a terribly bitter and distant man, as he had been broken by his own mistakes. He fought many wars, lived many lives, and saw everything that there was to see. He taught several other wizards his ways, some of which also aspired to his immortality. All of this he did, yet he was still miserable. During the War of the Courthouse, he was called upon to fight by the Emperor. "I am Halfdan. No man can kill me. Behold ye mighty, and despair," he said. He fought and destroyed the enemy decisively, as he had done many times before. Although the enemy was defeated, they still managed to destroy the city of Lecourt. The Emperor said, "I have mourned the loss of my city, but now I must move on, or else time will move without me." Halfdan heard these words and contemplated them. He had sat in his tower for so long that he had forgotten time. "I shall leave my tower and return to the present, where there is much joy to be found," he said. His dry and parched soul suddenly felt a drop of water for the first time in millennia. The Lord recognized what had changed in Halfdan, and finally allowed him to die. Around this time there was a young knight named Gododin. He went on a great adventure to save the Emperor's daughter from a terrible troll. The Emperor was greatly pleased with him, even bestowing upon him the Sword of Many Souls. Gododin married the Emperor's daughter, who was named Katla. As Gododin and his family were living in the Empire, a terrible storm brewed and the sea began to surge up over the cliffs. The whole kingdom was at risk of sinking below the waves, as the ocean poured in from all sides. Gododin chose to save the Empire rather than flee. He jabbed his mythical sword into the ground and began to lift the land into the air. He pulled the whole continent higher and higher, until the bubbling sea could no longer reach the top. The ground buckled and cracked, forming mountains and ridges. That is why the terrain of the West is so rugged now. All the citizens rejoiced, as Gododin had yet again saved their lives with his incredible strength. The people of the Empire grew to love Gododin more than the Emperor, and the Emperor grew to resent Gododin more than anyone else. The Emperor hated him so much that he tried to kill him. He did not even try to kill him once. but 26 times, all to no avail. "Why does the Lord preserve a fool like Godolphin, who has taken everything from me?" said the Emperor. His hatred drove him completely mad, making him run the empire straight into the ground. To make matters worse, the earth spit forth a terrible fire and shook the ground as if it were wheat being threshed. The sun gave no light that year, only gloom and bitter dust. Then came the snow, but not in the usual winter time. This snow came in mid-July. The crops died within an instant, and none could feed themselves. The Emperor, who was a mere figurehead in this time, even declared that money cannot cure hunger. Thus the era of kings and wizards was over. Even in this disaster the Lord looked out for his people. He preserved Godolphin, Katla, and their whole family throughout the troubles. They traveled to the easterly kingdom of Eftha, where they would live for some years. Godolphin continued to protect Eftha like he had done for the Empire before. The king of Eftha welcomed Godolphin's family. He saw them as esteemed guests, but just like the Emperor, he grew jealous. "Everyone loves Godolphin, but no one thinks of me," he said. And just like the Emperor, he tried to kill Godolphin. But Godolphin did not sit down this time. He fought the king and took over Eftha, where he would become a very powerful king. He had 4 sons, Alfred, Leif, Sven, and Gylfi. They all worshipped the god who had saved him from the time of troubles, and they worshipped him in Eftha. The people were complacent with this, but the pagan priests were not. "Why does a foreigner worshipping a foreign god sit on our throne?" they said. So they summoned all of their magic to try to kill Godolphin, but it was still only enough to force him and his tribe to leave the country. They went much further to the north, where they settled. There was a single monumental tree in that cold land, which they called Schema. At the end of his days, Godolphin said, "I give this land to all of you, my sons. May it be a blessing to you for many generations. If you are to love the Lord your God with all your heart, then this land will stay green and fertile forever. Remember what awaits you in heaven, and do not get lost in the earth." Godolphin died in Schema at the ripe age of 183. All of his sons followed him to Schema except Gylfi, who stayed further in the east. He lived on an isolated island in the North Sea. His daughter Elfgafu was very beloved to him. Gylfi began to forget the Lord as his attention was only given to his daughter. However, the heavy hand of God would soon come down upon he who idolized his earthly possessions. On one calm and peaceful morning, a terrible dragon came from the east, that is, north of Eftha, and wreaked havoc on Gylfi's home. Gylfi took out his sword and leapt 30 blocks into the air and cut off its head. The dragon came crashing down, and all of the townsfolk applauded Gylfi for his incredible skill. Gylfi believed that he had saved the day, until he realized that his beloved daughter was not in the crowd. He searched the island for her, only to soon learn that she had been ripped apart by the dragon. The only 2 fatalities that day were the dragon and Elfgafu. Gylfi built a somber shrine to remember his daughter, who he so loved. It can still be seen today in Fjelloy. Gylfi was very old and going blind. He gave control of the island to his son Vindalf, who was just as brave as Gylfi was so long ago. Unfortunately, Vindalf's coronation was interrupted by a troop of demons coming from the south to kill him. "Vindalf is too bold. He's too courageous. We must put him in his place," they said. Vindalf did not let these demons frighten him, however. He went down to the shore and lifted up the heavy dragon head which had been severed by Gylfi and placed it upon a wooden pole. He lifted the heavy carcass up into the air and waved it back and forth at the demons. The demons believed there was a real dragon on the island, and were so frightened that they dissolved on the spot. That is why we put our dragons on our churches. They're a sign of the Lord's judgment and protection. The famed sword of many souls which had been given to Godolphin was passed down through the generations in Schema. It went to Godolphin's son Alfred, then to his son Tira, then to his son Eric, then to his son Jorvik, and then to his son Oddvar. The sword was stolen from Oddvar while he was sleeping, but the thief accidentally woke him up. Oddvar chased the thief many miles, all the way to a large volcano. The thief ran down the crater and into the center of the volcano, to which Oddvar followed. Deeper and deeper they went through the burning hot ash and the toxic air, until Oddvar gave up the pursuit and went home. Oddvar became the only man to travel into a volcano and survive, thus his name, the Earth King. No one knows what became of the thief and the Sword of Many Souls, only that neither were ever seen again. The crown of Gododin soon replaced the Sword of Many Souls as the holy relic of Schema. The long line of holy men from Schema ended around this time, as the people betrayed the Lord. Just as foretold by Gododin, the air turned cold and the ground was covered in snow, and all those in Schema were forced to live a harsh life of scarcity. Where there is land now, there was sea then, and where there is sea now, there was land then. To the east was the kingdom of Baist. The king of Baist wanted the crown of Gododin for himself, so he politely requested it. Yoar of Schema politely declined his request, and war ensued. The king of Baist attacked Schema directly in a siege. He attacked once with a small force, but was repelled. He attacked a second time with a larger force, but was again repelled. He attacked a third time with a grand army, but could still not take the city. God told him, "Do you not see? I do not favor you. I will not hand over Schema to you." But the king of Baist did not listen. He prepared for an unstoppable fourth attack on the city, despite the Lord's warning. As punishment, God rained down fire on Baist's armies and banished them from the land forever. The kingdom of Baist was never again inhabited. Schema ruled over a mighty kingdom which was called the Land of the Foothills. Those people still worshipped the same god as their ancestor Gododin, but those around them did not. The immortal wizard Mangabingbor became their idol. They made sacrifices to him and praised his name as if he were God himself. Mangabingbor was very much like Halfdan, though he did not walk closely with God. He wanted the peoples of the earth to love him more than anything. The peoples of the earth did not love him so, but rather loved themselves. Mangabingbor decided that they deserved punishment for their selfishness, so he destroyed all of their kingdoms and empires, sending them back to a distant mythical era. He may have destroyed all life on this earth if it weren't for God's intervention. "Why do you treat my children so?" said God. "They only love themselves," said Mangabingbor. "Do not disrespect my servants Gododin and Gylfi, who have slain dragons and built great temples in my name," said God. "The people must worship something. If that thing isn't me, it will be themselves." So Mangabingbor granted the humans mercy as the Lord wished. Schema was destroyed, but the people of Gododin survived. They returned to the east, where they settled on many islands, including the long-abandoned island of Gylfi. The descendants of Gododin changed much in those twilight years, and mountains of history were lost to time. It was upon that rocky island that the clans of Gododin gathered to unite under his name. The clan leaders were Ethelred, Ethelbeard, Ethelhard, and Elfwin. Thus, our nation was formed. Goodness gracious me, oh my, I forgot how long that was, and I wrote that whole thing on one day. I didn't really realize how much I just stole from the Bible, because, I don't do a lot of reading, and most of the reading I do is old books and the Bible. So, half of that just sounds a little bit like the Bible. But, I mean, the Prose Edda, I've got it right here in my hand. This, Penguin Classics copy of the Prose Edda. It's a lot crazier. It's got a lot more, let me read a piece of this, because I think it's just so, it's just so freaking crazy. So here, someone is licking blocks of ice that were salty. This guy's stuck in ice, and someone's trying to lick him out of the ice, to melt the ice with their tongue. That's crazy. But anyway, point is, it's basically like the Norse Bible. And this Prose Edda is basically the same, so it makes sense that it sounds a little bit like the Bible. Now that's all for this video. It's probably going to be forever long, because this book is forever long itself. But hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope you will subscribe and like the video and share with all of your friends, because I want subscribers and money. I'm not making money yet, but hopefully I will soon. So, goodbye.